let's go to our next topic. Jace Butler commits to Illinois. I mean, that is the sentence. Jace Butler commits to Illinois. Not a super prestigious recruit here, but another name, the third name in Illinois' class, along with Merez Johnson and Jason Jaxtis. What do you make of Butler's game? Is this a needle mover for the Illini?
I really don't think it's a needle mover whatsoever for the Illini. I'm not saying that I wasn't impressed with like Jace's film. I think that he is a good player. But there was nothing on his film that like popped to me as like being a Big Ten contributor, even down the road. I think back to when there was the kind of the shock value that Jason. Can you pronounce his last name again? I don't want to butcher it.
I've been saying Jaxtis. I don't know.
Jaxtis. Okay, I'm gonna go with Jason Jaxtis, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it. But when I saw his film, I thought it was like, oh, he's raw, but there's something there. Like junior year Jason could be a contributor. When I'm watching Jase Butler, I just don't necessarily see it. And honestly, putting my Illini champagne problems hat on right now, this class is it's interesting because I think you do have to add guys like Jason. You have to add guys like Jase Butler, and then you have your star piece in Merez Johnson. But I think there's got to be a little bit more rounding out to that class. Like Merez is the prize fish. He's like a top 50 guy, top 30 guy. I think he ends the season, honestly, by the time we get to like McDonald's All-American and 5-star category. Like I think he'll be in that range by the time we get there. But then you got to mix in some other guys like in the middle of there. It can't be like McDonald's All-American 200 level recruits. You know what I'm saying? And granted, these guys might hit. Ask Matt Painter. He gets 200 level recruits all the time and makes it work. But at the same time, after watching Jase Butler's film, good player, but his offer list looked like it matched up with the player that he was.
Yeah. Do you want to read the offer list?
It was Loyola Marymount, UC Santa Barbara was on there. I want to say UC Riverside.
Cal State Fullerton, Colorado State,
yeah.
Loyola Marymount, UC Santa Barbara are what 24/7 had. Yeah, look, not a prestigious recruit. That doesn't mean he can't be a great player. We've seen that happen a lot. There's undervalued guys. I think you would like, if you're an Illinois fan, I think you would like the undervalued guys that Brad signs to have more like high major looks still, even if they're not prestigious high major schools. Like this, to me, this is a mid-major ad. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad take for a program of Illinois stature. Like you got to get program guys. Your goal should be to have a mix of star talents, impact guys with, maybe one per class that's just going to be a 4-year chemistry culture guy and wants to buy into what you're doing. Lord knows, like with how much turnover Illinois has had under Brad Underwood, like there is value to guys who are just going to come in, put their head down, work, and not have an ego that says they need the ball in their hands. That said, I don't see anything in Butler's game from the film that I've seen that tells me he's going to be a good player in the Big Ten. It could happen. Like I said, there's a lot of guys who come in under the radar and surprise people. But just off of what I have seen from the film alone, I don't love this. I don't expect really anything to come from this over the next 3-4 years. I think it's more likely he's just either a bench guy or potentially a transfer out to a lower level at some point than it is that he's in the rotation. The more interesting thing to me here, I want to play a quick little game, and I want you to give me a grade. I want to go year by year, recruiting classes that Brad Underwood has signed going back to 2020. And I want you to retroactively grade the class with knowing what we know now. Obviously, it's different than when he signed them then, but man, it's not the prettiest thing here. So 2020's class: Adam Miller, Andre Curbelo, Coleman Hawkins, Brandon Lieb. This was the 16th best class in the country out of high school at the time. What would you give grade-wise for that class?
A C.
C. You didn't really keep any of these guys, and they all had strange personalities at minimum. Moving to 2021,
Coleman carries a lot of weight for that C.
Right. Moving to
Cares it all.
Moving to 2021, the 24th best class in the country: Brandon Pajemski, RJ Melendez, Luke Goody.
D.
A D? D as in dog?
Yeah.
Okay, because again, he didn't keep Pods. Pods is a really good player. We like
Yeah.
Goody, but the rest of this is kind of what's going on. 2022, the 11th ranked class in the country. Sky Clark, Jaden Epps, Ty Rogers, Sincere Harris.
I'm going to give that a B.
That's a decent class, even though he lost the 2 best players in the class to 23, the 29th ranked class in the country. Nicolo Moretti, Amani Hansberry, Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, Zachary Perrin.
Zachary Perrin's not even there.
Zachary Perrin's not even there.
I guess a lot to be seen with that, but a C?
Are you seeing what I'm seeing here before we even get to 24 of Merez Johnson and now these other 2, Jason Jaxtis and Jase Butler? Like, look, he's had top 25 classes in the country every year he's been there pretty much. Over half of the classes leave Illinois and they go to other schools. That has happened every single class for the last 4 years. Half of them leave. Most of the time, it's the good players that leave. Coleman Hawkins is like the only guy that he recruited himself that has become an impact player for Illinois. And now the numbers are starting to shift a little bit. And I know something about a coach who recruits at a high level and starts to slip, right? I'm watching that play out in real time with Juwan Howard, who had top 5 classes in the country for 3 straight years and now can't sign anybody. Brad's fall off isn't that dramatic here, but he's not signing top 25 classes right now. Like Jase Butler and Jason Jaxtis do not belong in a top 25 class. I would look at this class from last year. I like Gibbs-Lawhorn and I like Hansberry, but Perrin never showed up. He wasn't a big-time ad. I don't think Moretti's ever going to have a big role on this team. So I see the caliber slipping. And I think while the caliber is slipping, I don't think the turnover is going to start slipping. I think he's still going to lose half the players in his classes because he hasn't been able to manage a locker room once since he's been there, since the Kofi Coburn, Trent Frazier year, when both he had a generational talent and a generational leader in that locker room. He doesn't have that anymore.
Here's what I'll say, though. I think that though it is obvious that players are leaving and there's no retention going on, do you have to give Brad some credit to kind of being like, maybe, oh shit, these aren't the guys that are going to get it done. I got to recruit over these guys, or I got to transfer portal over these guys, and that's why they're leaving. Like he's fixing his mistakes.
I don't know. Like, look, if you can land Terrence Shannon, obviously that's a win. Everybody that's an Illinois fan in their right mind would say Matthew Meyer hurt the team last year. So I guess let's see what happens this year. Like, is Justin Harmon going to come in and be great? Is Quincy Guerrier going to come in?
Danger was good too. You had a Danger at the portal.
Danger's a good ad, yeah, for sure. But like, I mean, look, man, he's building rosters that are 80% portal ads. And the good recruits he has had have left the program. They've had some off the court issues, I would say, between the ears that have been unique. I mean, we like the class this year, right? We like Amani Hansberry and Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn. We like them.
Yeah.
What's the over-under on how many of those guys leave the program in a year?
I'm taking the over on 1.
I think
so.
I'm
taking the over, like if it's set at half, like one player leaves. I'm betting that one leaves.
We're hammering. And that says something. Okay. I'm not trying to come in doom and gloom, but it just like this Jase Butler ad really made me look at Illinois from a bigger picture because they're always having competitive teams right now. They've had very talented players. As long as Terrence Shannon's on this roster, they're going to make the tournament. They're going to be a good team. Terrence Shannon's leaving in a year. So I'm just a little surprised. Like we're talking across the Big Ten. Indiana has all this recruiting momentum right now. I tweeted yesterday. I got some shit for it. Jace Howard followed me immediately 20 minutes after I tweeted Mike Woodson's doing what Juwan Howard was supposed to do. I'm seeing it slip a little bit for Brad too. And that scares me because he'll still own Michigan. He'll still be competitive in the Big Ten, but I kind of fear what happens if he doesn't have the elite talents because I still think he's going to lose players.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, you got to know how to navigate it too. And I just don't. And I feel bad blaming Brad sometimes, but at the end of the day, he's who recruits these guys. And he probably knows that maybe some of these guys might have a little bit of ego, and a little bit of something different going on between the ears. But that can backfire when it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And it's backfired just immensely. It really has. Like the drama that's the Real Housewives of Champaign, the drama that surrounds this program. I don't care what like any Illinois fans say. Like I know a lot when we were talking about it, like you guys are just pushing this narrative, you guys are just pushing this agenda. No, there's no other type of drama around college basketball programs like there is around Illinois.
No, there's not. And look, if we were making a list of players in the Big Ten this year that are most likely to cause drama, the number one name on the list is an Illinois player. It just is what it is. And look, if we're wrong, we'll come back on here and say we're wrong. We like it when Illinois is good. Genuinely, we do. And look, I feel like we're coming across like I'm doom and glooming the program just because of a Jase Butler ad. I feel like that's a little harsh to Jase Butler. So if this makes its way back to Jase Butler or family or coaches or anything like that, I'm sorry. I don't mean to judge you that much. Like all we've seen, like a hardworking kid, gonna have some opportunities to play in college. Like I'm sure he would be a good player for a lot of programs in the country. It might be at Illinois that happens. I don't want to write him off. But yeah, just stepping back, looking at this class, like Jackson and Butler are not two guys that I would normally associate in a Brad Underwood class. And if he's struggled with the higher talents in general, I don't see how the lower talents are going to help him. We'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. But there's your Illinois update. First time in like months we've had an Illinois update. That felt kind of good, didn't it?
Yeah, it did a little bit. I missed them. But I
missed
also just went in my last thing before we move on. I just went in my head. Like next year, Damask gone, Terrence Shannon Jr. gone, Harmon gone, Coleman Hawkins gone. Like there's some places to fill with that team. And some of that should be done with maybe guys stepping up, but also some of that should be done through recruiting too. So I don't know. And then I mean your biggest piece too, Morez Johnson, is coming in at a position of a guy you recruited in your last class. Like there's a world where Armani leaves.
What is next year's starting lineup for Illinois?
I think it's Ty, Sincere, Goody, Morez, Dane.
They still have Dane for one more.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
Because Dane's a junior, right? Or a sophomore?
Now that you spell that out, I like that team a lot more than I was expecting. Like it shouldn't be forgotten that Ty and Sincere are still sophomores. If those guys stay for 4 years under Brad Underwood, then these recruiting classes shouldn't matter as much.
True.
I'm just a little skeptical they're both going to stay. I'm sorry. Can I say that out loud? Like I'm a little skeptical we're not going to have a Melendez from one of them.
It's never a bad guess to infer that with Illinois.
I noticed that you didn't have Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn in your lineup for next year.
Shit, my apologies.
I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not.
That was not intentional at all.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, let's go to that was a really good warm-up for our third segment for me.